Hello, everyone. Welcome to Serious Writer Club. This is July 31st, and this is a question and answer session where the questions are for you and the answers I will give you will hopefully help you in your journey. If everyone that was with me can turn off their mics and cameras, we will see. I think I can help you turn your cameras off. But today we answer questions for you specifically to help you in your journey. To allow you to get feedback, to kind of direct you on which way you're going, and ultimately to help you in your journey. So that's the goal. And I don't know why it is not let. Okay, there we go. All right. So there we go. Hello, everyone. And yeah, so I'll give you a quick update on things in the industry right now, because that's always good to do when we have these calls. And then we will take some questions from the chat, and then those questions can be about anything that you're working on. It can be about the projects, and anything else that you would like to ask about writing related. So, first, how are things in the industry right now? In the industry, things are slow because we are in the middle of summer doldrums. I sent a project out for one of my clients a couple weeks ago. One that I gave publishers, I thought I would get an offer on it. And so I said to publishers, I'm going to give you like a week or two. Can you get back with me? And the answer was no. So and normally they would say, okay, sure. Yeah. Cause they worried about competition. Cause I said, I believe we'll get an offer on this. And the one publisher, which was the largest publisher in the country, said, we need 8 weeks. Everybody's gone. And so we need 8 weeks to review this and get back with you in a proper time because of vacations, and it's the middle of summer. And that is the case. You don't send out a time sensitive project in the summer, but I was hoping, we've done a lot of contracts this year, so we were kind of hoping we could ride that wave. And the truth is, vacation season is vacation season, and they're not going to change it. So right now, submission wise, if you send submissions out, it's going to be crickets. So just know it'll be cricket season for you, and you're better off to hold off until late August, early September, like post Labor Day, before you send any submissions out. If you want to get a chance for someone to see it at the desk. Now, if you follow different editors, you may figure out they're back in the saddle. But I've been gone quite a bit in July because it's vacation season. So last week I was away camping all week, and so with my family, and then this week they're all sick, so I'm home. But what we've been sharing the last few months is it has been a good year for contracts. I'm currently working on like audio rights, and one of the things that I've been noticing is as the industry changes, new modalities of making money are being created by companies, by publishing houses, by um, to ways to sell books and to sell audiobooks and to make money on books and book projects. We're still working on a couple movies, TV series. Those don't move fast and often don't come to anything. They usually require a lot of work and then don't go anywhere. So, um, but then ultimately, that's kind of where we're at right now. One of the audio publishers that we're working with has been very slow to respond, and so we were contacted by another audio publisher who has their own app, which is kind of competing with like Amazon's app, and so they're creating their own app in their own space, and they've got, I don't know, 70 publishers online who are they're doing all their books, which is like 4,000 books, and they have 400 in process, which means it's going to become its own sales platform. But then authors will be able to work with that publisher directly to sell audiobooks, but give away audiobooks. They'll be able to do codes they can give away at events where they can't really do that with Amazon. So they're making it more direct to equip and empower the authors to be able to get product and sell it. And so we're seeing some more of that come up. Of course, hybrid's been a big thing. I think we're going to have a question here about hybrid publishing. I've seen a lot of hybrid publishing come up. And so those are some things you just be aware of in the industry. And I typically like April through July, August is sometimes September is conference season. And the reason it's conference season in those months is the industry tends to slow down in certain periods. Summer is really slow. Winter is really slow. Like holiday time is very slow. Summer vacation time is slow. But the old model of conferences used to be you needed to get editors when they were available, and they weren't available on certain times of the year, so you didn't have a lot of conferences and events then. Now editors aren't coming to conferences much anymore, so you end up having a lot of agents and then authors at these events. So I'm going to an event in a couple weeks in Nashville, which is Killer Nashville. I'm excited about it, but I don't think it's heavy editorially wise with faculty. I think it's heavy. I think there's a few editors more so than some other conferences I've been at because it's a very exclusive genre based conference. So thriller editors are going to come find thriller writers. They're not going to come and find romance writers. They're not going to come and find children's book writers. They're going to come and find people who are writing very specific niche that they're looking for. And these genre specific conferences tend to get a higher number of editors now than the big writers conferences, which bring in a lot of new beginning authors. And one of the biggest conferences recently had like two, maybe one editor of a traditional publishing house, and had I think 500 people at it. And that's just not the way it used to be when you would see 10, 15, 20 editors at these conferences. So there has been a big shift in the industry, and so you just need to be aware of that when it comes to conferencing. And so what to kind of spend your time doing right now in your writing career, if you're a beginner, write, learn, grow, take courses, practice writing. You should always be practicing writing if you're a new writer, especially if you are a writer who's already published, or what we would call a mid-list author who's got some books out. um, you got to sell books. That's the number one thing. So right now you should be doing everything you can to sell, which is grow platform, and get in front of people through speaking and sell. And then those would be the two things I would say. And if you're extremely successful author selling millions, you're probably fine. So just do what you're doing. So those are some updates. I'm going to grab a couple questions, and if you have more questions, put them in the chat. But that's kind of where things are at. So right now it's slow. Things have been good in publishing. I have seen one thing that worries me, and we talked a lot about it last year, is the rise of AI, um, in not only illustrations but in like writing. And I think what the industry has realized is AI is here to stay. And so now publishers are embracing AI fully. Um, we've been talking about having AI terminology and contracts to protect against AI works, but when it comes down to it, most of the big publishers are now selling their their list, the rights to their list to AI training uh, houses, like to train AI. So their books will be submitted to train AI. And so that is just where the industry is going. And now some publishers are using AI in to do books. So that's just where we're going. I don't think it's going to stop. I think AI is going to continue to get better. And so what's going to differentiate is, do you come up with creative ideas that a computer can't come up with, and do you write in a way that's not formulaic enough that it's could be spit out by a computer? And I think humans can't be duplicated by machines in the creativity that we possess, at least not now or anytime soon. But um, you want to begin thinking outside the box and begin thinking about different things. Like I do think we're going to come to a point where Hallmark isn't going to need authors anymore, like, because Hallmark is such a formula. I think those formulaic romance, it's going to become a very standard thing that AI is eventually going to get down really well. And so I think what's going to be the nuance is um, writing in your genre in a way that's new, that's different, that you find a perspective that a machine can't create. And so my encouragement is, I think writing is going to stay strong and people are going to continue to read. There's going to be a priority set for human written books down the road. We're already starting to see that. So I think humans are going to always tend to want to read some humans are going to always want to read human written works, not machine written works. There's going to be a segregation, so to speak, of those things. And so I think that's going to protect writers. We're starting to see that in the industry. So the key is just make sure you keep working and writing and be creative as you can be. So that's kind of my update of the industry. Let's hit some of these questions. Joanne asked, I have been offered hybrid contracts by 3 different publishers. What do you think about those? My worry is that if 3 different hybrids have offered you, that they I would say, what do they publish? The question be, what do they publish? Hybrids are in it for profit. They are not nonprofit companies. They're not doing it for your best interest. They're doing it to make money. And I would want to know that a hybrid can sell books. I don't want to know that they can distribute books, because everybody can distribute books. Even I can distribute your books through Ingram Spark. I can say, well, I have Ingram Spark distribution. Everybody has that. You can get that through Amazon. So everybody can get the same distribution. The key is, can they sell the books? Are they going to promote and sell and deliver sales that make you money? I have not seen a hybrid that has done that yet. I have never seen a hybrid ever produce sales and make an author happy with the sales that they've gotten. The only time I've seen a hybrid make someone happy, when that person already had millions of dollars and they wanted to put out a good looking book because they were speaking and training in the hospitality industry, and they needed a product to match the status that they brought into the industry. They were a high-ranking vice president of a very large hospitality company, and they needed a book that matched that appeal and that they could take and speak. And they were very happy with the hybrid that they work with. They got a beautiful book. The hybrid didn't sell any books. They didn't care. They already were speaking before 100 people, 50, 500 people, and they were taking their books to sell. That's the only person I've ever seen made happy by a hybrid, because hybrids generally don't sell books. They make their money off of you paying them and then you selling the books. And so that's my opinion. So, and being that you got offered by 3, hybrids generally offer contracts to as many people as they can, because they make their money on the author. They don't make the money on the book sales. You want a publisher to make the money for you on book sales, so you make money. Now, my advice is, my advice on hybrids is, if you have a lot of excess money to spare that you don't need and you're not going to miss, you can go the hybrid route. But know that they're not going to sell any of your books. You're going to be the salesperson. They're going to give you a beautiful looking product, which is what they're good at, packaging the product, but you're going to have to sell the product. And so if they can prove to you that they're going to invest thousands of dollars in marketing, and they have a marketing and sales team that's going to take your book and get it in stores, then that's great. I don't know any hybrids that have that. I know some that have promised that and they don't have it. So I don't know any hybrids that actually have all that. So let me know if there's a follow-up there, Joanne. I'll be glad to answer it. Regarding children's picture books, is it best to submit with or without illustrations? Okay, good question. So if you are a world-class illustrator and you can illustrate at a level of which a company would contract you to represent your illustration alone to publishers and other authors, then you can submit illustrations. If you're not, do not submit illustrations. So don't submit concept work. Don't submit illustrations. I have very few authors that I can submit illustrations with, because they are not world-class authors and illustrators. And here's the thing. Being a good artist does not make you a good illustrator of a book, because there's a perspective thing. Like for example, let me find a piece. All right, here's a book. This is a book. All right, these are my passwords. I don't want you to see my pass. This is my password book. So let me. All right, here we go. Here's a piece of paper. So here's a piece of paper here. This is a piece of paper. Ultimately, it goes this way. I probably should not put it on my face. So most people are good at making a 2D image. Let me find a pen. We'll kind of work on this. All right, I'll show you. Most people are good at doing a 2D image. I'm a terrible artist. So they're good about putting 2 characters on a page and giving you this perspective. The problem is, for children's picture books, this is what the average artist can do at a high quality is creating a 2D images where you're looking at it from this perspective always. The problem is for children's picture books, they don't want this perspective on every image. They want a perspective like this, and then they want a perspective that would say, let's just make this a new page up here. This would be like the head, like top down. Let's see if I can get a little feed out of here. So I see I'm terrible at this. This would be like looking down at their heads with their arms and their feet. They want the perspective to change. They want to be able to look at the image from above, from below, from the side, from far away, from near, and not every artist is able to do that. Very few are actually capable of that. And then the thing that I evaluate is hands and eyes. Can you do eyes perfectly? Can you do hands where they don't look weird? Are your arm, do the arms look weird? Those are a lot of things that I see wrong. And so I know I'm spending a lot of time answering this because people always ask me, well, why? So the why is even though someone could be a really good artist, they may not be a good illustrator of picture books because of the multiple different styles of art that are required in the perspectives. They don't get the perspectives right, and they don't get the sizing right with the perspectives. And so that is a huge part of being a picture book illustrator, from what I've talked to editors and from what I've seen. Um, so if you can do all that to the high level where somebody would hire you to work for one of the world's largest illustration agencies, then yes, submit them. If not, I don't. And again, if you have a follow up, Wendy, go ahead and shoot me a. Sandra says, what are the best things to do to promote your book when it launches? That's a great question. Guest blogs, podcasts, social media, book signings at live events, Amazon ads, et cetera, et cetera. I tried them all last year with my kids' book launch, and I have a new book coming out in October 24. So, okay. I would say yes. Yes for all of those things. Yes to guest blogs, yes to podcast, yes to social media, yes to book signings at live. Well, no, maybe no to book signings at live events. That seems to be generally a waste of time. Publishers don't care. Amazon ads, yes and no. If you are the publisher, yes. If you are not the publisher, no. So yeah, so that the reason being, if you are the publisher, you can run Amazon ads on your. If you're not the publisher, if you have a publishing house that you're working with, they are the ones that have to run Amazon, and you won't be able to run effective Amazon ads or make any kind of return on your investment trying to promote and run ads on something that you're not publishing. You're going to get a very small percentage of the royalties, and you're going to spend a lot of money to make the publisher more money, and you won't make your money back. So generally speaking, my rule is if you have a publisher, do not invest money on ads for your book. You will never get the return back. You only invest ads on books if you are the publisher. If you self-publish well, we'd like to say it. So yeah, if you have a follow-up question there, let me know. For a kid's book, you can make Amazon ads work on a kid's book if you're the publisher, but it's going to be hard. You're going to lose money generally over time because kids books are harder to sell in series, and you don't often see them as many series, and you need often a series of books to make them add ROI work, the return on your investment. And we had a show. I don't want to call it a show. We had an interview earlier this month with Vincent Davis, who is a specialist on Amazon ads, and he has sold over 100,000 books, which means, I mean, if you look at the cost, he's made over like $1 million selling his books with Amazon ads. And he kind of shared all the secrets with us. So if you missed that episode, go back and watch it. You should have the link. You can go back into the unlisted YouTube and watch that video. It is worth watching for everyone, whether you're self-published or you're traditionally published. That information is very valuable. And I think it was an excellent opportunity for you to learn there. And then guest blogs, podcasts. I would say, for the most part, guest blogging podcasts, it doesn't really return on any sales unless you can highly promote yourself. So just be aware, you might do a guest blog and sell one book. And I mean, I had a client who was on one of the largest Sirius XM radio shows in the country and promoted her book and to millions. I think like the listening audience was like 5 million. So she sold 15 books from that like hour episode. 15. It did not, it did not, it did not produce what we had hoped. It was a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of expense to go to there to do that to sell 15 books. Um, and ultimately, I think it was a big disappointment. So um, I think when we do, I've had clients that have done like shows and like we had a traveling concert that had 17 concerts around the country, and they had speakers. It was like a music festival with speakers, and we had the concert festival, whatever it was, owner gave us a free spot for my author to speak at one of the events, and then her book was available at all the other events, and there was a table with the books for sale, and there were ads playing on the screen. It was like 17,000 people, 10,000 people at these, and she averaged selling about 10 to 15 books per event. And the main speaker of the event, the person who got like the main stage, only sold about 40 to 50 books at each of those with thousands of people. And so it was a very disappointing thing as well. So we had hoped like this is going to sell hundreds of books. The publisher lost a lot of money on that because they ordered a bunch of books thinking that would do better, and it just did not. For whatever reason, it just did not um, do well. And so just be aware those things are a huge risk for publishers, and they want to know that publisher now will not do them. They even told us it was a huge risk going in because they're like, we don't have the results from these events that you think we do. And they were right that we did not have the results that we had hoped for on that one. So sometimes it works and you're like, wow, that's so crazy. And sometimes it doesn't. So in those examples, both weren't the greatest examples. I've seen a dedicated podcast where there's a really sold out audience. It's very niche where you could sell more than 15 books with a small audience because it's a niche audience. So the podcast we were on was not a book podcast. So I think you want to err on being on guest blogs on podcasts for readers who listen to find new books and to find new information. So if you've got a self-help book, you want to be on podcasts that are like meeting the felt need of those self-help um, groups so that they say, well, I like that person's advice. I want to buy that book. You got to get on the right ones for what you're writing. Um, so yeah, Sandra, if you got more questions, let me know. You had a statement here about when we were talking about AI. Won't there be suits if authors, if publishers are doing this with AI? No. Yes and no. When you sign away your rights to a book, if you signed a contract, a lot of those they have things like we get your rights for everything and everything that will ever be created under the sun or something like that. And so they basically, a lot of these publishers have tied up every right that ever will be. So they've tied up your AI rights already. And so I don't know if all the big publishers had that, but a lot of the little publishers had like all of your rights in perpetuity and all your rights for any rights that will ever be created by any technology yet to be invented or created for in the known universe. I've seen that phrasing a lot. And that means, when AI came out and became a thing, they already tied up your rights because all the rights fell into the contract. So you just have to be aware of what you're signing, read the rights, read every little detail. And if you don't understand it, you need to find out what the rights are, what you're giving away, because more will be created in the future because there's going to be AI rights and there's going to be AI video rights, which are going to be coming out before too long because AI video is a huge thing right now. Josie asks, I've been seeing some longer picture books lately. Is the target goal still 500 words or more? Is there some room in there? My current work in project is 738. I'm trying to figure out how much I need to cut yet. My target's still 500. Still publishers still like 500. Yeah, I mean, I will say there's always an exception to every rule. So it just depends on who the publisher is, what they publish. If you notice that a certain publishing house tends to do a little bit longer books, then you can submit a longer version of them. But if you look at others and they tend not to, then you want to stick with less. You can always add more to a book. It's very hard to take away from a book. So if a publisher said, hey, we like this, but we want to stretch it out a little bit, on the pages and fill up some more space. Um, Ultimately, that's something you can do. But 738, I would probably tighten it up. I probably can tighten it up to 600 words, and I would tighten it up as close to that 500 as you can. All right. So Doris has a follow up on Wendy's question. Wendy's, let's go back and see what Wendy's question was. Wendy's question was about picture books submitting with illustrations. Okay. She said, follow up to Wendy's question: will a publisher help with finding an illustrator? If a publisher acquires your book and it's just your text as a picture book, they will hire the illustrator, they will pay the illustrator. And you don't really have a say. So you will have a say if you're rich and famous. You will not have a say outside of that. If you have a large following, millions of people, if you're a celebrity, you'll get a say. If you're not, they might ask you what you think, but I've not seen anyone. We've not had any art where we've been like, oh, we hate that. We don't want to go with that. Normally we see it after they've already hired the person and told us this is who we're going with. So, I have seen publishers at some mid-sized houses take like a year and a half to acquire the illustrator, which is a long time. Normally, when they buy the book at the bigger houses, they already have somebody in mind who they work with as an illustrator that they could think the illustrations would fit. So generally speaking, the editor makes that connection or passes the book over to an art director, and the art director will hire the illustrator, which is very common at the bigger houses. It is not necessarily your editor. There's an art director who will go out and find an illustrator, but they're already working with hundreds of illustrators. They already have an idea. And so you don't get a lot of say. You may think that the book you wrote in picture books was for children and find out that the art director decided it should be bears and you don't get a say. And now it's a bear book. So that's some of the what you need to understand with how that works. But feel free to ask a follow-up, Doris, if you need. Joanne's got a follow-up to her question, which was, I have been offered. Oh, this is a hybrid question. Okay. Follow-up question. I have books published by traditional publishers and books that I have self-published. Since I've only recently been offered for hybrid publishing, how long should I keep querying agents and publishers before I self-publish? That's a good question. Let me think on that for a second. So if you are already self-published, I don't know. My advice is I don't think hybrid is the option if you're already self-published. Hi, this is the dog that says hello. So I would not I wouldn't go the hybrid route. I would keep control because you're going to make 70% of the sales with Amazon if you sell within the right price. You're going to make 10% of 70% or 15% of 70% through a publisher. And through a hybrid, you're going to have to pay a bunch of money and then hope to make it back. I don't know anybody that's made money back from a hybrid. So, or even got their initial investment back. So, I would say when you have exhausted the opportunities that you think are there for your book with an agent or a publisher, then I would move quickly to self-publish. If you can do it well. Now, self-publishing, I don't think just self-publishing is enough. Self-publishing well means you're spending. We talked to Vincent Davis about this, and again, if you didn't watch that one, go back and watch his. He spends about $3,000 to $5,000 per book publishing his book, which is what a hybrid is going to do, and what a hybrid is going to charge you, because the money that you need to spend to self-publish well still has to be spent, whether a hybrid's doing it and you're paying them to do it, or whether you do it yourself. And that is meaning you got to get a great cover, you got to have great editing, and you got to put the money into investing in the layout of the book, getting it done, getting it to be perfect, and then putting it out and getting ads on it. And so that's self-publishing well. Now, that could be an investment for some. So you may not want to move through the agent process quickly and the publisher process quickly if you don't have that money readily available. But I think that's generally what it takes. I think if you get if you can figure out like the right way, you might well cut that down to $2,500, $2,000 per book. But like, I've not seen covers that are discount covers produce mega sales. Generally speaking, there's always exception, but normally expensive covers produce expensive sales. That's kind of the way it works. So, if if agents say follow up with me in 3 months and you follow up and they're not interested, then it's 3 months. Publishers usually, I would give publishers and agents 3 months. Send them an email, maybe send them another one a month later. And if you don't hear back from them, I would say move on. So maybe what's that, 4 months? 4 month process of initial submission to follow up to 1 month more follow up. So that's like 3 emails. If they're not responding, they're probably busy and overwhelmed, and it may not mean anything about the quality of your work, but you just need to be aware. Like, I mean, I tell people if you haven't heard from me in 3 months, it's a no. And oftentimes I don't even get a chance to look at their stuff. I just don't want them to hold their stuff for me, and be miserable like with me. Like, if I have a chance to look for it, I will. My current clients keep me pretty busy. I am looking, but I'm looking for the right thing at the right time, matching what publishers are looking for. So I'm always looking, but I may not always be looking for what I'm seeing. If that makes sense. I think a lot of agents are like that too. If that doesn't answer your question, feel free to shoot me a follow up there. Next question, Sandra. Oh, you're thinking of hiring the person who's learned the ads? Yeah, I mean, I think Vincent Davis would be a good option if you are going to go the self publishing route for sure. Wendy says, thank you. Just what I want to know. I submitted my story to Ethical and they shortlisted it. I just learned it didn't make the 25 list. Not sure what to do now. Any suggestions? I would say, let me go back to what story was this? This was this is the picture books. I mean, if Wendy, can I ask here for a follow up? Did you submit it with illustrations? So yeah, or without. We'll come back to that one. Sandra, algorithm of Amazon, so that won't work if my books are not self-published. Then say yes. Do school visits help authors sell? Yeah, I mean, the algorithm Amazon can be your best friend if you learn it. Really can. And honestly, all the publishers are learning it. Like, I know it sounds terrible, but there are people at publishing houses who are basically doing the exact same thing that self-published authors are doing. They're just trying to figure, like sales, the marketing team is just trying to figure out how to work the Amazon algorithm, because Amazon is by far the number one seller of books in this country. They are for the traditional publishing houses and they are for the self-publishers. And so if you can figure out Amazon ads, and like there's a Hachette imprint that I work with, I won't say which one. They have a person who their full-time job is Amazon ads. That is on their marketing team. That's all they do is Amazon ads. They are a specialist in doing Amazon ads. And they take the majority of all of their, like for a book, they may say, hey, we're going to invest $5,000 in ads for this book. And they might put $1,000 into, maybe promotional a magazine or whatever. And then they're going to put $4,000 in Amazon ads. So the majority of a lot of these companies' marketing goes to Amazon ads. And so it would behoove you if you're self-published to do the same thing, to invest in Amazon ads, learn it, really learn it, or work with somebody that can teach to you. Do school visits help authors sell? School visits can help authors sell if there is a way to sell books. That would be the question. Is school visits will sell books if you can sell books. Now, think about like Scholastic Book Fair. The reason Scholastic Book Fair sells books is Scholastic sends a flyer that goes home to every kid, and then they come back and they bring the money to purchase at the book fair. So there is a way, there's a modality to buy and sell books, and an opportunity. If you're a speaker at a school and you can't take books in and sell them that day, and kids haven't brought money to buy books, and you can't send flyers home to the parents with which they can turn back in, and then they'll get to you and then you'll deliver the books, then no, they may not sell books, because how many kids do you know are going to go home and remember your name? So the key is, if you're going to do school visits and you're writing for families or for children, I'm guessing this is a question about picture books. There needs to be a way to order the books, and you need to take any opportunity to not buy books out. Like, you could go and speak to a class and that's great. Go read your book. They're not going to remember. And like, there needs to be an order form that is delivered to the parents before you show up. If they can, that kids will come that day with money, or you'll be able to give an order form out that the teacher will put in the little usually the send home packet every day. That will be a deliverable order form that can come back in, and they'll get it to you, and then you need some way to do that. If you can't do that, you're not going to sell books. You're just going to go speak to a classroom of kids who are going to forget who you are. And maybe you'll sell one, maybe you'll sell two, maybe you'll sell if a parent comes, a parent teacher helper comes, you might sell that book. But if you want to do school visits right, you need to have the way to order before and after and have it very detailed, have it foolproof with all the information, your website, anything they need to do if they want to order offline and not through the paperwork. But you have to be able to follow through that process and kind of answer every question that could be answered up for parents. All right, more questions? Again, follow up. If you got to follow up, let me know. All right. Clint says, I have written a fantasy fiction novel. I have 2 fairly successful YouTube channels. Cool. Should I mention these inquiry letters to agents as they are ways to promote the book? But do me a favor, let me know how successful. Give me a number of your subscribers, video views, and then I can answer that more for you. But yeah, JJ Levon says, I think that's right. Should back matter be submitted along with a children's picture book? I have a few appointments next week to discuss it. I've been told back matter upon request could be mentioned during the appointment. Yeah, I mean, you could say back matter upon request. You could put it in if this is for a picture book, you could put it in the proposal, back matter. You could just have a page. This is the back matter, possible back matter, potential back matter, and then put it in. It's not going to hurt you to have potential back matter, because if they don't want back matter in the book, they won't use it. If they do, what I often find is that if you say that you'll put back matter in, they might say, this is great, but we don't want it. How about this? And then they'll have you create some other back matter that fits more lining with what they want to do with the book. So yeah, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts at all. Joanna says, do hybrid publishers have illustrators for picture book? They do. It's often if they have good illustrators, they're very expensive. I know a hybrid that was $10,000. That's what you had to pay, because they were paying $4,000 to $6,000 for the art or picture book. Picture books are extremely expensive. That was like pre-COVID too. It's probably more now. So yeah, I would say they do. And if you look at the books and they don't look like other books you would see at like Barnes and Noble, then they don't have good illustrators. I've seen a lot of hybrids with really terrible illustrators. And I know some illustrators that have worked at some of these houses, and they're people that have pitched me to represent them. And like, they're just not good enough. And then I see that they're putting out like 20 books a year with this small house. And I'm like, it's just not good art. And none of the books sell. They get paid by the packager, which is the hybrid. They get paid by the packager regardless of whether the books sell, because the author paid them. So just be aware. How to say it. Average does not always sell. Usually doesn't in this industry. Above average and excellent usually I think it's kind of art that you see that sells. Same with covers. Wendy, you said no. What was my question? Oh, you did not submit the art. Okay. So I would say, Wendy, if you had some interest from a publisher, that means and it didn't make it, that's normal. I mean, I often have books that go to like Pubboard and we're really excited and don't make it. So I would say just keep submitting it. Submit to some other houses. Do I recommend anyone who can handle advertising marketing for me? If you're saying specifically Amazon, Vincent Davis would be one. If you're looking for Facebook ads, they're not as easy to do and not as successful anymore. So I don't really know anybody I would recommend there. I tend to not recommend too many people, because most marketers don't deliver what they say they're going to do. And then people get mad, and I want you mad at me. So we did have Vincent Davis on. I have watched him sell his books. I don't know how he performs for other people's books. So that would be something you need to ask him. I think for any marketer, you should be able to ask them, show me your sales. Like, do you have any like samples of your success with other books in my genre? And they should be able to say, look at this book. I started representing this person here. This is where their sales were. Their sales went up to here. over this time and investment with me, and I can do the same for your book. And if they can't produce that, or if they'll say, well, that's covered by, client privilege. There's no such thing as client privilege. They don't have it. So there's no client privilege. They don't have to show you the book. They can just show you the metrics. Um, yeah, I mean, they don't. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people say, well, I just can't share that. It's private information. My client. They don't have it. That's why they can't share it. I'm ratting them out today. um, so, yeah. Okay. So, Tanya's answering the question too. Good. Joanne says, I want to advise my fellow authors about scammers. Since March, I've received some scam offers from some agents and some movie producers. Yeah, you gotta check people out. Always check people out. If they've got a legitimate looking website, that you can get that. You can get a Wix free website. Like, you need to find out that if they're selling books, if they actually represent people. You can get a list of people that, like, get a list of the clients that they have and call a couple of the clients. People do that to me all the time. Yeah. They'll call my clients, say, hey, how do you like working with Kyle? And it's okay. My client might say I don't. So I don't know. But usually the clients tell me, hey, so-and-so called me. They're interested in working with you. I get that call a lot. The problem is I'm not always interested in working with the people that are calling people to check me out. So I would just say, be aware that you can do that, and just check them out if you don't know that they're legitimate. If they can't produce a list of clients, if they can't, then yeah, if they say their client list is privileged, private, they don't got one. They're probably not legit. Wendy's follow-up is, I submitted my children's picture book to Ethicool Australia without illustrations. If they select you, their story, they pair you with an illustrator. Okay, great. Yeah. All of them, I mean, all publishers will pair you with an illustrator if they like the work. So if they buy the text, which is normal in picture book, they'll find an illustrator. So yeah, just submit your text just to other publishers. No problem, JJ. Follow up. One has 200,000 all-time views. Another one has 130,000 subscribers and 1,800 subscribers, respectively. I mean, you can put it in there as long as those. So I would say this: if your platform is in line with what you're writing, if your platform is like, I have a tech channel that does reviews on calculators, I don't know, and you're writing a fantasy book that has nothing to do with calculators, then they're not going to care. It's not going to help you. It's actually probably going to be a detriment. So if you have a fantasy channel that's like Lord of the Rings fan fiction, and you're writing a fantasy that's similar to Lord of the Rings but not fan fiction, then that may help you, because you can, if you're writing about, like, if your following is in best fantasy books of 2025 and you're writing fantasy, then yeah, definitely include it, because it means you have an audience that's specific that could buy that book. But just being a fan of you is not going to be enough. They've got to be a fan of your writing for it to matter for a publisher. Could I write the name of the Vincent Davis the third, I think. Yeah, we actually, it was just a couple weeks ago we had him on. And so, Joanne, if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. The link should be in your email. If you don't have it, go ahead and shoot an email to Bethany and ask her for the link. And Bethany can connect you to Vincent Davis if you ask for that. We'll be glad to do that. I got a message to me. Let's see. This is a direct message, so make sure there's nothing I can't read out loud here. Okay, so I got a message. This is it. It's this person is currently publishing a book that's set to launch in June of 2025. Okay, great. Got a contract without an agent and hoping to secure one for future books. How soon do you recommend beginning to query agents with a new book? So agents like to make money. So if you sold a book and got under contract and you made money, and then you need to probably start, if it's a one-off book, then the agents will be like, okay, if you say, hey, well, I don't know what the details are of your deal, but if you got a deal for like $5,000, and an agent's going to think, well, I can make 15% on another one if I can sell it. So I would say, let them know the terms you signed for. Like, if you signed and you got a decent deal, you need to lead I mean, honestly, I'm an agent. I would say lead with that. Like send me an email. Hey, I got a book contract. I really want to work with an agent to protect me, to help me in this industry. Here's my deal terms. I've got these other book proposals I'd love to send to you. Are you interested? And you basically have checked boxes for an agent. It's like, well, this person already is writing things that are sellable. So yeah, let's check out what they've got and see if it could work for them. So yeah, I would say send the deal terms that you got worked out. Like I got this advance from this company, and I'm really just wanting somebody to help me work on more things. And because that's a low hanging fruit for them. For context, current contract restricts publishing a new book within 2 years of publishing. Um, I mean, that's an interesting clause. Within 2 years of publishing a new book in that series or a new book ever. So let me Okay, current next book. Okay, well, it's already got the follow up here. Current next book. I won't say what they are. Um, Current and next book are they are nonfiction. We'll say that. Okay, so that's weird. So I will say to the person that direct message me, send me another message and let me know if you're restricted only in that genre, in that specific targeted nonfiction, or if all books. Yeah, and we'll come back to that one. So Clint says one channel is about mysticism and one is about magic. Followings are fans of my writing, and even these channels are nonfiction, or nonfiction channels. I think they could have good crossover to urban fantasy novel that's very spiritual. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. Uh, as long as you're writing urban fantasy, I think you had said you're writing fantasy though. So I don't know in a fantasy proposal unless you can you can tell them why. So I'll say it this way. When you use platform, you have to quantify and qualify the platform because they don't know about your platform. So you have to tell me the quantity, how many people are there that could buy books? And then you have to tell me the quality of your platform. Why does this platform matter? And why will these people buy books? Because the truth is like 1% of 1% of 1% buy books. So if you have 1% of a following, 1% of those people will like be interested in even open an email about a book. Then 1% of those people who open the email about the book will probably buy the book. That's the statistics. Um, some people have 10%, so it's 1% of 10% of uh, it's 1% of 1% of 10% is if you've got a really good open rate. And your open rate is not everybody. It's going to be the people that are actually interested are going to be a small portion of that. So that's how publishers look at it. So publishers actually take a spreadsheet and they take your platform numbers, they take your engagement, that they take your views, and they try to get a number. So they may take like, for example, I have like 800,000 followers. They'll winnow that down for each one. And they'll say, well, these people on this channel are actually this committed. And so they'll take a small portion. If they take 1% of that or 10% of that, that's 80,000. And if they go 1% of that, 80,000, that's like 800. Right. So, and then if they take 1% of that, I sold 8 books. And that's how they would look at it. They would look at this can equate to 8 books. Now, if they can figure out that you have a really engaged platform, they may say it's 5% of 5% of 10% or something like that. So they'll put the metrics together and they'll actually get a number that they'll do it. So if you have 800,000 and then you have 10%, that's 80,000. If you got 5% of that, that's 4,000. You got 5% of 4,000, that's 200 books. So they'll say, well, I think that this person can sell 200 books based on the engagement that we see on the platform. They actually do this every time. They actually have a department that figures all this stuff out as they're trying to make sure whether they want to offer you a contract or not. They put it in a spreadsheet, they do a performance, and they figure out if you're going to make profitability or not. We've had books that publishers have told me they believe will make profit, but it won't make enough profit to be worth their time because they're only going to they're only going to publish so many books a year. And for the books that they publish a year, they have to have so many books that will go above a profit level so they can sustain the company. So although they think the book that I've sent them for my client will make money, it's not enough money to be in the 30. And so then they have to pass, which means they love the book. They love the idea. They think it's profitable, think it's sellable. They just aren't going to do it. So that happens all the time. And authors get really discouraged because they think, well, nobody likes my book. It's just because they may think it may not sell enough in a, and for them, that profit has to be within a calendar year. it can't be over the lifetime of the book. It's got to be within a calendar year. So then they take that is why it's so low. I know that's a long answer to that. I hope that makes sense. Um, Tanya asked, can you just platform where? What kind of content? How to grow email list, a general overview. That is a big question, Tanya. We can, you know what? I can save a lot of this. We can do, we haven't done a platform specific one of these in a while. We can do another one, but here soon and maybe in the next couple weeks. But I'll hit it quickly. Platform is your platform is whatever you have, whatever following you have that will buy books. It could be on email, it could be on a podcast, could be on social media, it could be through whatever. It's what if you're a speaker, it's your speaker following. If you've got already a bunch of book sales, then it's your book sales history. That's your platform. Those are people that follow you, that know you, that are potential people who might buy books. And so but to sell a book, they have to be people that are going to buy the book that you're writing. So if I am let's just say I'm a yoga fitness instructor. I'm a yoga fitness instructor. And I want to write a book. And I want to write let's go urban fantasy. There's nothing that says my yoga people will buy an urban fantasy from me because they followed me for yoga fitness instruction. If I wanted to write a book about the importance of stretching, then there's a good possibility the yoga people would buy that book. They're not going to buy the urban fantasy. And so the platform, you have to quantify and qualify the platform, why it matters and why those people will buy books. And so you want to grow an email list, you want to be on social media talking about whatever you're writing about. That's the key. So if you're writing children's, you need to figure out how to get people who buy children's books, grandmas and moms, to follow you. And that's what the industry says. The majority of people who buy books are women. So you need to find those women who are going to buy that book for their child, their grandchild, their nephew, their niece, whatever. And you got to create a platform that they engage with, and that platform has to be in a way that you can sell books. And so if you're writing fiction, like we were talking about, Clint, if Clint's writing fiction, he knows YouTube, he needs to create a YouTube channel that's more directly associated with his book for his fantasy. So it might be, right now, fantasy's huge right now. So maybe he creates a channel. It's a fantasy channel. He talks about Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time and all these, movies and TV series that are on right now and coming back out. And he also talks about the writing behind it, the authors, all this stuff. And then ultimately, if he can create a following there, then when he says my book is similar to this content, then hopefully those people will follow over and will purchase that book. Another message here. Okay. This is from Doris. I have written for two different genres, children's book, and I'm currently working on a fiction book about my grandmother's life. Should look for two different genre specific conferences to try my luck with one larger conference. If you're newer, Doris, then you could go to a larger conference. Go to a conference that will have most larger conferences will have tracks for children's, tracks for fiction, tracks for nonfiction. So I would say try one and go, and then kind of bounce that you can bounce between tracks where you can choose. That would be an advice, or come to our intensive. We have an intensive coming up in September that might be very useful for you, where you can kind of bounce between if you need, learn a little bit about everything, and it's very intensive, so you'll learn a lot. It's like a fire hose to your noggin. It's a lot of information. That might be a really good thing for you to do in September. All right, so okay, got it. This is from my private message. This is the one about the not being able to publish a book for 2 years upon release. So I'm going to read you the clause. Author will not allow another company to publish a new book by author before time can publish manuscript. Author will not write a book based on the subject matter for another publisher for 2 years from the date it accepts manuscript. Okay, so author will not allow another company to publish a new book before author can publish manuscript. So here's some questions. Here's some answers. I probably not, but the contract should say that the publisher has to publish the book by a certain date, or the contract is void. I would have wanted that in there as an agent. Like I'd want them to say they got 18 months to publish publish the book or the contract completely void. Because that means if not, they can just keep this thing going until the end of the contract. And the end of the contract could be in perpetuity. So it means you can never publish again until they publish a book. I would have not let this stay in the contract. I would have cut that out. But it's in there. So I would say the part about where an author will not write a book based on the subject matter from the publisher for 2 years, that's fine. That's a non-competition clause. I like a very specific non-competition clause. I would like it to say something more like based on the same subject matter to the same audience, written in the same style. So that way it's very detailed that it is only a book that's like that book. So that's not the big problem. The big problem is if they don't have a date that they have to publish the book by, you cannot publish another book with another publisher, the company. But if you self-publish, you're your own publishing company. So that would keep you from self-publishing too. So what you can do there is if they don't have that, is you could say, hey, I want to get an addendum on this contract since it was just delivered a month ago, and I need to get a final date of you're going to publish that book. If it's not in the contract, like we need to add a date that you're going to publish the book by, because I can't publish another book until you do. And then, but you could publish another book right after, which doesn't make sense. So, because it's not a competition clause, we're not releasing our book. Usually, you can't release any books for another 6 months after, for a lot of these big publishers. So, it's a little bit clunky on the wording there. Oh, it does say that. It does say that there's a date. Okay, good. If you've got a date, then you're good. They have 1 year to publish. Okay, so good. That's what you want. I was about to say, because if you don't have that, they could just, we're never gonna publish a book. You're done. And that does happen often. Like people will sign contracts that they should not sign all the time, especially with mid-size and small houses. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have lawyers, and so they just put random things that they find on the internet in there, and it's contracts are never in your favor. They are always solely in the publishing house's favor. They're always against you. They're never in your favor. It doesn't matter how nice the person is, how friendly they are. It doesn't matter how long you've known them. The contract always protects the publisher. I've had people who are good friends, no longer friends, because they started a publishing house, started publishing others' books, and yeah, it didn't go well because the publisher protected the publisher, and the author got frustrated because, well, they're not looking out for my best interest. They're looking out for the publishing house because they have to protect the publishing house. So you always need to negotiate contracts. Don't accept them as they are. If someone tells you this is a non-negotiable contract, you should probably walk away, because it's not good. It's not beneficial for you. Wendy, we'll make this the last question here from Wendy. So regarding children's picture books, again, what do you advise about multiple submissions? Make them. Yeah, do multiple submissions. Yeah. Just let them know this is a simultaneous submission at the end of the email. Send out multiple submissions. You don't do one at a time. Like send it to everybody that you think you could send it to in the first run. And then if you get an offer, you just got to go back to tell everybody else that you had an offer, and hopefully they might make a counter offer. So good. Well, guys, thanks for taking an hour with me. I hope we answered a lot of your questions. And if you didn't, for some of you that missed the Vincent Davis one, go back and watch that. If you have any issue with that, shoot us an email at support.seriouswriter.com. We'll try to get the link out to you, and so that way you don't miss it. But it should be in an email from, I think, a couple weeks ago. We would have sent the email out for that link on YouTube for you to watch that. So it is worth your watch, even if you're traditionally published, just to understand how that all works, because the publishers are doing the same thing for your books. So thanks for taking the time, and I will catch you guys next week. See you then.